the best of times will walk me through my darkest days. Why must I turn around? I ask myself. This just ain't fair, so hard to bear. I'm not really sure these days, You walk away, you know
Mátan False Rashwig Gaeilge Weekly. Good morning, welcome back to Gaeilge Weekly, the a lot simpler version, the way simpler version in English, a lot simpler, way simpler, the bilingual version anyway, an legan dhaoine. So, hope you guys are all doing well. Thosaitheoirí gohfuil sibh go léir ag déanamh go maith this week on Ceisteanna seo. I'm happy today, I am back from Italy, so tá mé rash tar éis my thuras go dtí an Idal. I am back at base in Seville. Tá mé rash arís is Seville, and very happy to be back. Long sauce that a bheith a rash. As I said last week, mar dúirt mé an Ceisteanna sa caite. I really enjoyed my trip. It's really good. A lot of different things that I was doing while I was there. So when my sora tatnav as my thuras, vi mé déanú a lá an rudaí difriúla agus mise an sin. But it's funny, it doesn't matter where I go or what I do, it's come a cinát sa haon mé, cad dhéanann mé. It doesn't matter whether it's back to Ireland or somewhere else in Spain, it's come a más Rudaí go déim arás go héireann, nó áite gan eile sa Spáin, they can see her on holidays or somewhere abroad, like Italy or Greece or whatever, áite gan thar lear, cosúil leis an Idal, cosúil leis an Gréig. Always, after that trip, Igoni, Thurish on Thursday, I come back to Seville and I realize, wow, I love living here and it's so nice to be back. It's even of a imachoni and shot, agus tá sé có jazz of a irash. And that's almost in a weird way one of the nice things about going away for a while. In Malach Buganín Ashtuk, Sin ceann sin a rudaí actually is far faoi dul áit and haar largs, dul áit and leanúint the Sierra. Okay, there's the thing itself. There's, getting to go to Italy and all the benefits and positives of that I spoke about last week in an dul gotí an Idal agus na buntáistí go léir bhaineann le dul gotí áit cosúil leis an Idal and the food and the people and whatever, and Bígí, the dhaoine, agus mar sin de, all the things I mentioned last week, na rudaí ar fad a luí mé an Ceisteanna caite. But as well as that, ironically, one of the best things ceann sin na rudaí as far is actually coming back after and having a break from Seville is tócha brisú nó sus a bheith agam ó Seville, and then I'm kind of more able to be appreciative and grateful of how cool the city is. Tá mé an a bheith níos buíoch is tócha agus just níl sang. Tugann faoi dara, I notice or realise some of the things about Seville. And maybe if you're here constantly, you don't realize má tá tú an so go leanúnach agus I gcónaí beidir ní thugann tú na rudaí sin faoi deara. So it was so nice coming back on Wednesday and thinking, wow, this is where I live. Bhí sé có jazz an teachtarás ar an Gaeilge agus muoinú. Wow, like shot an áit ó bhfuil mé imachónaí. So last few days in Italy went all good. Honestly, I left about, I think, 1 day or 2 days after recording the podcast last week. Ceapan gur dog my bids are law, no bids are gá lá, tar éis dom an podcréil le aftú an Ceisteanna caite. So no big news really to update on there. Níl mór an Gnáthleagan as an gúpla lá dearnach a bhí agam an sin from the last few days I was there. But yeah, all is good here back in Seville. To gachrad go and so is Seville. I love this time of year and I'm so happy, especially that the clocks have changed. So Stephen and Tom Shaw agus an tréimhse ama, the kind of time period den bhlín and tréimhse ama Shaw den bhlín this time period or this kind of this time of the year. For a lot of reasons, obviously now the clocks have changed. Ar nói tá na clig áthraithe an ish, so getting that extra evening or the extra hour in the evening rather. So tá an óra sa bhreis agin an ish Franona. I mean, here in Seville it's not getting dark until about 8:30. Níl sé gáirí dúrcha gotí beidir lethar tar éis a hocht an seo is Seville. And that's so nice to have that extra time to be able to do more things in the evening, to be out and about and just for your head. Few like the bheabhar agus the insín sin sé difriocht ulwar. It makes a really big difference. But as well as that, I know I always feel like things are kind of starting up around this time of year. Been long Rudaí thosaitheoirí an amseo den bhliain. There's a lot more things on, certainly here in Spain anyway. Tá bhád níos mór Rudaí siúl, kind of more events and just more people about, more things happening, more people up for doing things. Níos mó dhaoine is tócha sásta chun Rudaí a dhéanamh. As well as that for even small stuff like sport. It's a great time of year for sport. It's all míntacha maidir leis on sport, because for things like, let's say, the soccer, the rugby, it's coming to the end of the seasons. There's a lot of big games, Rudaí cosúil an soccer. Agus an rugby, táid dridjim le deire an séisiúr, so talán cluichí móra. There's a lot of big games, a lot of quarterfinals, semi-finals, finals, alán cluichí ceathrú ceannis, leat ceannis, agus cluichí ceannis. Even in terms of the other sports then, the GA is back. The championship started over the weekend, so tá Cumann Lucas Gaeilge, Arash, Hussey and Crave, ag an Ceisteanna, Galway, New York, and Mayo are playing. Who are Mayo playing? Sligo, I think, fi Mayo, ag Emirates in Sligo. So I know it feels like there's always a lot of stuff on here in Seville as well, especially because it's so hot in July and August. Marial gomín sé co-chesh in miúil agus mí lúnasa. You kind of have to enjoy these months as much as you can before then. Cai tú tanna a bhaint as na míana seo riv on soch like on fear yokt before the real tough heat comes in later on in the year in Eastjanie Savlain. So this is the summer, this is the time to enjoy April, May, June. That's it really. Mi aibran, mi bhealtainna agus mi bheithimh. And then of course September, October, November, even December often is really good. Mi bhean fóver, mi air fóver, mi na sauna, fiú orintha, mi na nullag bín say gohíntaach or bín say tau arenos in mi nullag. It's okay, at least you're fine in December still. So yeah, really happy. And as well, another thing I suppose I talk about a bit on the podcast from time to time, Rodella a bhím ag labhairt an budcréile óam go ham. You know, again, I suppose even if you're back in Ireland and you're thinking about the summer and having maybe more time off or going on holidays, fiú má tátu I do chonaí an éireann, agus tátu smuoine faoin saoire, agus dul ar leitheann de saoire, agus mar sinnte dul go féile cheol, beidir going to a music festival, different plans for the summer, and you don't have that fear of July or August and the place being too hot. Agus níl an agla sin agat maidir le miúil, agus mí lúnasa, agus by an áit roiche. The place will be too hot. It's still kind of sometimes the months before that are actually the best kind of part of it in a way. You know, few aren't on sin being saying the me and the rivrai of being mar the me and the isfar. Because I've spoke about this before about something like a holidays, for example. Sometimes it's not the holidays that's the best thing, aren't the like nisa mar na leichen the sira iad fein mar on rud isfar. Ac actually tush ní small beidir an sachtan no an kaikish. No, on cúpla mí riv na leitheann saoire. Sometimes it's the week or the fortnight or the few months even before the holidays when you're looking forward to it. Nar atá tú ag súil go mór leis and you're thinking only a week to go, only a few days to go, only a month to go, and I'll be there or I'll be doing this. Sometimes that's actually the best thing, the time kind of before something big happens and the time when you're buzzing every day. Tá tú mothú gcomhpháirtíocht gach lá, looking forward to a certain trip or a certain plan. Ag tú go mór le turas éigean nó plan éigean. So yeah, I know. I've always thought there's something special and something really cool about this time of year from, I suppose, from maybe St. Patrick's Day up until maybe start of June, middle of June, around that time. So láid le páirc could see better. Tús mi meitheamh, lór mi meitheamh, heart an am sin. I think for me that's probably my favourite time of the year. Ceapan gur sin an tam ná tréimh se ama is fearlam I ri na bliana. But anyway, I want to talk about something today that's, I suppose it's tough to put one title on it. We may give you a large free rud in ya will it be there beginning Zachar hon like Tedale one a her but in general I suppose it's talking a little bit about something I've spoken about before on the podcast. Kind of ráite is Rudaí rameig larts free river so on budcréile. And that's kind of, I suppose, the small things, the simple things in life, but in general living a slightly simpler life with a bit less technology and doing things kind of in the old school way of doing them a small bit. So stocha chus sé sin mar na Rudaí Beaga sa saoil na Rudaí simplí ach beidir níos mó ná sin the héal ó bharchdal is tócha I malach beagnaí níos simplí, níos seanaimsrithe, kind of a more old school way, le níos lú technoliacht. And it's something I suppose I've realized over the last few weeks. I think, I've spoken about it on the podcast before that I'm a bit old school in a lot of stuff I do. To me, soch old school, no, beagnaí old school, arenos, launch and Rudaí I think about a month ago we did that kind of quiz, or I did the quiz anyway, in terms of what generation I was, and I wasn't surprised that it told me, well, it thought I was a millennial. So in the Euro Intas term, gur cheap an quiz, gur cheap an Intralín, is tócha nó an Intralín seo, or this website, gur cheap sé gra mise millennial. Now, níl mé, I'm Gen Z, or whatever you call it, born in the year 2000, for Agus of Lean, gá bhíle me. But I think a lot of the kind of ways I view life, probably more view life and just my daily kind of practices and stuff I do every day, Rudaí a dhéanam, gach law and how I use technology and so on. Chuid a bhín mé úsáid an technoliacht. Maybe it's more like someone who's kind of 5 or 10 years older than me. Better go to beagnaí níos mó cosúil le duine éigean chuid bliana nó 10 mbliana and ní sinna ná mé féin. So I've spoken about that a bit before, being large fish in beginning river, but I've been thinking about it more, and I was thinking about it while I was initially. If you make smuoin of fui ní smó agus gohorithe agus misha sanidal in relation to, I guess, trying to, like, what gives me happiness in life every day, or what are the things that I really enjoy every day. Cadi in the Rudaí of when I'm tatnav astu gach law. And it's funny because as I've kind of been thinking about it more, I keep on realizing it's the really kind of small things. I know that's cliche, tá some cliche atá ach in áir is iad na Rudaí Beaga agus na Rudaí simplí. And often the things that you could have done 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, even the Rudaí, a bheith tú ná déanú 50 bliain ó hin, 100 bliain ó hin, 200 bliain ó hin. And it's funny because we live in such a, we live in the technological era. Talmuds ag markdal I rain the technoliaachta, but often it's the things not to do with technology. And it's for me anyway in my life, dumsa in a hail hain arenos. It's the things not connected to technology. And I guess like very small things I've been thinking about, like having a coffee in the morning, no music on or anything on the backgrounds, just making a coffee myself, it's in a cafe, dom hain or may hain, agus just a goal an cafe sin, agus beidir ag seaú amach tíbh muit an duras ag fé concert, constatá I'm sure, so standing out outside the door, looking outside, seeing how the weather is today. And I don't know, I see with a lot of things. Fech mé sin le alán Rudaí to friúla sa sail, that when you break it down, you strip it down, despite all the complications and how much we use technology and maids, a mates in úsáid a bhíon muid buint as an technoliacht gach lá, and how complicated life seems at times kick of costa agus bhil híon an sail orintha. It is funny that it is kind of those things, just really simple things that you could have done still 50 years ago, 100 years ago. Rudaí grautún an déanú beidir 50 bliain ó hin, 100 bliain ó hin, that are still kind of the things that I know just make you feel good, even though on paper there's no big reason, or it feels like there's no big reason for them to make you feel good. Ar fápar, moille say nach bhfuil fá mór, nó nach bhfuil cúis, or go tú mothú gma mar gheall na Rudaí sin. But I did that podcast about a month ago, I think number 87 was, éasca, hartar bhío hin, I was talking about the different things I do to, I suppose, to keep myself in good form, especially, cadi na Rudaí a dhéanam chun a hain chuneal ag mothú goma, especially considering I spend a lot of time on my own between my work and I live on my own, so tá mé machóní ima éonar agus le chuid zibra freshen, been mé gobar lam hain, ní bhíon mé really gobar le daoine eile. I don't really work with other people apart from a few of my students, chacas dúpla de Viclain. And so one of the things, and I guess looking back at that list, or kind of the different things I was talking about in that podcast, ag smuoine siar ar an liste sin agus na Rudaí rá mé ag labhart futhú ar an bud craile sin. A lot of them again are those kind of natural things, if you want to call them, na Rudaí nádartha is stocha. So going out for a run and just being out in the fresh air, or even just going doing the shopping, like going for a walk 5 minutes to the supermarket, ag dul ar súlad, cuaig nóid, go dtí an tulwarga, maybe chatting a bit to whoever's working in the supermarket, say Lawrence Bígí leis an duine, gobar an sin san ulwarga, calling a friend, a chur gléach chara aigen, or whatever. Could be anything. Could even be listening to a bit of music, ag éisteacht le beagnaí ceol, reading for 10-15 minutes ag léamh, fad de nó cuaig nóid teag. And it is kind of funny how it's those things, even though we're so kind of obsessed with technology nowadays, cé bhfuil muid chomh gafa sin leis an technoliacht, even though so many of us work our full days on the laptop or on the phone, cé go mbíonn an méid sin daoine ag obair an phone an lá ar fad, nó os cóir scáil on in front of a screen an lá ar fad all day. It's actually the really kind of simple things and the small things that I suppose make life worth living. Sounds dramatic. They make life what it is. And I think a lot of people maybe realise that during COVID as well. Ceapan gur thug a lá daoine é sin faoi deara i COVID, that we were kind of always looking for more and something bigger, while it was just the small stuff, the commute every day into work. As much as you didn't like being stuck in traffic, bidder nach raibh tú ro hostal chun bheith sáinnithe i ddracht gach lá, but it was actually during that 20-minute commute and you had time to yourself and there's a bit of music or podcast or radio show on, bhí seo radio nó beagnaí ceol nó podcréile siúil agus bhí beagnaí an ama ad detain, you had a bit of time to yourself or whatever, reading for 15 minutes on your break. And it is funny how it is the small stuff that makes a big difference. I remember when I had Emma Carroll on the show about a year and a half ago, Scufflum nervy Emily Carroll and so Arthur Blin no Blin Galet him, and we were talking a bit about the radio and about podcasts, and we were kind of saying, isn't it funny nach Jose Granver that again living in this technological era, reign the technology, that everything is so complicated. I mean, how does Wi-Fi work? How does Bluetooth work? Like Kinqueeving Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth to go per ChatGPT and AI and DeepSeek or whatever it's called is Intlachtherga. Artificial intelligence agus bíonn sé chóchasta, but probably the biggest thing over the last 10 or 15 years has been podcasts. And think how simple podcasts are. Smoin if we céco simply agus atá podcréiltí. You were able to record a podcast 100 years ago. Bhí tú ná podcréile have to do céad blino in. What is it? It's just two people or even just one person like this. Ní leann nach birds, no few dinner one, cosúla seo. Speaking for half an hour, ag labhairt fa la or no or clig, and some device recordings agus gléas an ag tafadú an óráid is tógad the speech no an chora very much the conversation, let's say. So why is it that over the last 10 or 15 years, when you can do so much with technology, cin fá le 10 mbliana nó 2 bliana deaganús agus tá tú an a méid sin rudí leis an technology? Why is it that something so simple that you could have done years ago, like podcasts, is all of a sudden really popular and kind of the main thing? Cin fá bhfuil daoine gafa le Rudaí cosúla sin agus Rudaí soch. Old school, like Sean Eipeasóid. Something kind of old school and kind of, I guess, old-fashioned in a way. And I think it's, in my opinion, it's because if you think about the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, must be into if we Shaskaji, Shachtaji, Nochtaji, agus Rai, and on from there. Like, let's say in the 60s, 50s, maybe TVs came in, so holding the television as Shach, but just the Koigaji, the Shaskaji, they became more and more popular. Kind of everyone, probably in countries like Ireland, had one. Then in the 70s, bhí sé people na gach den a béitris na Shachtaji. In the 80s, maybe more so the computers coming in and people spending time on them. So na daoine cathú níos máma ar na riomhrí and shins, na Hugtaji. In the 90s then, the internet, that really steps it up. And even end in the 90s, maybe mobile phones. Honnig na mobiles is Shach, na phone pócha. Is Shach ag dearan na nócaidí, but more so the internet. In the middle of the 90s, an interlín I lór na nócaidí. In the 2000s then, smartphones and social media. So an sin arís na phone pócha na phone I clista. Sna 2000s agus comala sin an na mian speisialta, and then everything getting bigger and bigger, multiplied by 2 in terms of social media and smartphones, and beginning to work on smartphones and laptops ag obair ar na riomhrí agus ar arís na phone clista, ar na teens, and then COVID and working from home, daoine gopur sawalia inis I lorna fihidsi in the middle of the 20s. That kind of for years, I suppose it's been going one direction, that for the last 67 years, people have been spending more time in front of screens every year. Tá daoine caithfidh níos mó ama os chur na scáilán gach bliain, certainly up until 2020, 2021, gotí 2025. And I do wonder, have we reached kind of some type of saturation point or critical mass? I don't really know what those mean in English, but I think people will get what I mean. Have we reached kind of the max where actually people are starting to turn a little bit? Tá daoine casú beagganín, especially people my age. I mean, I'm 24, 25 in a month or two. Tá me sé cur bliain as féadís, tá me ba mé fé cuaig I gceann cúpla mí. And certainly I see it with a lot of people my age. You know, fecum le landini mo ish, that there's not really a desire. Maybe I'm just getting old, but you're just school misha igari shan and the people around me, the dini timpa learn fresh and gul sheets in igari shan. But I feel like there's not quite the same desire that there was 5 or 10 years ago, certainly in Europe and Western Europe, in Iartha na Europa. Nach bhfuil an fun céanna agus nach bhfuil daoine géirí an level céanna chun an lár fád a chathú an phone. The people don't want to spend all day on the phone as much now. Maybe that's just because I've stopped doing it as much. Beidir go sé sin mbearla nach bhfuil mise gafa leis an phone an level around me cúpla bliain ó hin that I'm not as obsessed with the phone as I was maybe a few years ago. So maybe it's just when you change your own perspective, you start thinking everyone else is doing the same. They're arguing to the bhíon hain chiapan to goil gach den eile ag déanú an rud céine. Ach, Nilsam, I don't know. It feels like people are kind of looking for the alternative stuff now and looking for the old school kind of stuff, or the more natural stuff, let's say. Na rudí níos nádara is tócha. I mean, look how many people now are into running. Look how many people now are into going to the gym. Bheadh an méid sin daoine agus tá simach acu sa gym, sa nó na Gnáthleagan, nó a bheith ré cúpla óir I ré na seachtaine, run clubs. Even, let me think of kind of something else, the High Rocks thing that's getting very popular now, HYROX, that people might have seen Beidir Gurwaka Dini A Shin, and that's kind of a big fitness competition that's gone really trendy now around the world, and you can do it to different places. Again, something like podcasts, and that's just conversation, and how much we as people love conversation. I don't know, it seems to me, Factor Dumsa, over the last few years, especially maybe post-COVID, that people are going back to the things that as humans we just really like, and the more kind of, I suppose, natural things, the really níos nádara. Even religion, not to go down that path, but it feels like more people, young people, again, are starting to get back into religion and maybe having some type of a connection with God, whatever you think of that. It's come a call happen to Fushin, but it does feel like, again, to me, and people spending less time on technology, daoine caithfidh níos luama on technoliacht, and spending more time talking to people, prioritizing kind of doing things in person instead of always doing them over the phone. It déanú rudí sa fearhail and lots of gcónaí déanú rudí an phone. And again, I might be miles off here. Maybe this is just because some of these things I'm doing, neart in the rudí seo, tá mise ag déanú na rudí seo. So Beidir go mé beagnaí cléanta. I might be a bit biased, I don't know. But I was just thinking that over the last few weeks, it is funny how, again, life's so advanced now. Agus tá an saol chomh chasta sin. It's so kind of complicated and so much technology to do so many things for us. But the best thing is, for me anyway, still just having a chat with a friend without any phone there. Just cora of it le chara. Always better kind of in person than going níos far sa fearhail agus leis an fear dinner. And even thinking to, again, for me, writing, pen and paper is always so much nicer than typing. A scríb, peann agus pápar. I gcónaí tá sé I bhád níos deise ná an rívre. And whatever, almost listening to the radio and seeing what song comes on, nicer than just handpicking a certain section of a song you like on Spotify. I gcónaí géisteacht leis an radio, tá sé beidir níos deise. Má hagan árán a níos nár thula túla blianta, a song that comes up that you hadn't heard in years compared to kind of handpicking, peochú mach or on the one, or on Oriha, or le kind of specific song on Spotify. And listen, I use all these things. I use Spotify way more than I listen to the radio. But the músáid as Spotify, it wasn't small ná on radio, and you know, I work completely online and I work on social media a lot of the day, being me gober. Go homláin linn agus chachmalán náma an na meán speisialta le fust and so on agus mar sinja. But I don't know, it does feel to me like, regardless of whether it is changing for me in my life, it's come up on will say gahrú ach dumsa moille arenos every kind of year, every few months are real as well. It is those things that you could do, the kind of normal stripped back things. Cosúla coffee all margin, cosúla cora hosúla dinner and just start a conversation with somebody, to drink a coffee in the morning, to write out something, whatever, on pen and paper for 20 minutes, to scríomh amach Rudaí or fion agus pauper or fa just sitting down on a bench somewhere, people watching a small bit, see she's or vinsha ád and ag fécans an down the fécans here on sale, ag tarlú timpalert, watching kind of life happening around you. That those actually kind of are the things that, yeah, that make every day cool and that make every day, yeah, I know, just interesting. Shindy na Rudaí a dhéanann gach simul agus dhéanann an sale spatial dumsa arenas for me anyway. But I don't know. I've always thought at the end of your life you're not going to be thinking, oh, I should have spent more time in front of the screen. Ní bhaid tú explain all like in fáil nach raibh mé a cahún níos máma os cóir na scála. Now we all need to use screens like I do I'm doing it right now as I watch the wavelengths of my voice on Audacity, which is a great program for recording podcasts. Tá Audacity gcomhpháirtíocht má tá tú ag tafaidú podcréaltaí. And yeah, I know I've just always thought that, you know, what you're going to regret is not spending more time with other people or just doing what you want to do, which be out and about and seeing different places or whatever. Na Rudaí nádartha sin, those kind of natural things, I guess. The natural things doesn't sound great, but in nach bhfuil cuma ionach natural things or Rudaí nádartha, but just the small things and the simple things. That's what I mean to say. Na Rudaí simply, so say. So yeah, I know, kind of random thoughts there, cúpla smaoinú randomach and sin Maidir leis an sale. I feel like more and more every week, Gaeilge Weekly. Last year, at the end of last year, is becoming almost like a politics show, or a kind of, I know, look at the world, I guess. Maybe it's very fake and say on sale níos generalta, agus gachar their shul timple and down. And this year it feels more like a self-help podcast at times, even just for myself maybe. But it's moille sé cosúil le podcréile self-help orintha I moille. But that's okay. It goes different places every week. And as I was saying, none of it's ever too serious. It's just a few thoughts and ideas that I have. And maybe they might even help some people outside of the actual Irish side of it, but in terms of people's lives. So beidir go mbeidh sin an cabhrú le daoine éigean. Ní amháin leis an Gaeilge ach actually le Rudaí eile I uair Ceisteanna. So yeah, that is it for this week, Sinead. Don Sachtan so. Guys, a big thank you as always for listening to Gaeilge Weekly. Míle buchas, mars go nach, as sa bheith éisteacht le Gaeilge Weekly. Looking forward to speaking to you guys again next week. Tá méid sul go mór le labhairt libh arís an Sachtan se thugan. Big thank you. Gur míle maith. Slán agus ballacht. Goodbye and God bless.